Imagine a sky, once vibrant with life-giving clouds, now a vast, mocking expanse of brass. Imagine a land, once fertile and abundant, now cracked and parched, mirroring the very souls of its inhabitants. This was Israel, not merely gripped by an unprecedented physical drought, but suffocating under a profound spiritual famine, a time when the very air seemed to thicken with confusion and doubt regarding the divine. In the heart of ancient Israel, a kingdom once vibrant with the echoes of divine covenant, a creeping shadow had taken root. The throne, occupied by King Ahab, had become a pedestal not for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but for the foreign deities championed by his Phoenician queen, Jezebel. Jezebel, a fervent devotee of Baal, the storm god, and Asherah, the goddess of fertility, had systematically dismantled the worship of Yahweh. Prophets of the Most High were hunted, altars desecrated, and the sacred groves replaced with idolatrous poles. The people, once guided by the clear light of Yahweh's law, now found themselves adrift in a tempest of competing loyalties. Altars to Baal dotted the landscape, promising rain and prosperity that never came, only deepening the spiritual drought that mirrored the physical one. This era was characterized by a fundamental question that gnawed at the heart of the nation: who truly held dominion over the heavens and the earth? Was it the ancient, unseen God of their forefathers, whose voice now seemed distant and silent, or was it Baal, whose priests and priestesses danced with fervent, if ultimately futile, conviction? This is not merely a chronicle of ancient events, a recounting of a historical clash between two religious factions. It is a visceral journey into the heart of a spiritual crucible, where the very essence of truth was put to the ultimate test. It probes the agonizing choice between comfortable deception and inconvenient truth, a choice that echoes through every generation. In a world saturated with voices, each claiming a path to fulfillment, how does one discern the authentic from the artifice? How does one stand firm when the currents of popular opinion threaten to sweep away conviction, when the promise of immediate gratification overshadows the wisdom of enduring faith? This narrative illuminates a moment when such a choice became not just personal, but national, a desperate plea for clarity in an age of profound spiritual ambiguity. Into this fractured landscape stepped Elijah, a prophet whose very presence seemed to embody the rugged, untamed spirit of the wilderness from which he emerged. He was a man of fire, not just in his words, but in his unwavering conviction, a lone voice crying out against the deafening chorus of idolatry. His declaration of a drought, a direct challenge to Baal's supposed power over rain, had plunged the land into 3 years of desolation, bringing the crisis to a head. The stage was set for an unparalleled confrontation, a dramatic demonstration intended to shatter the illusions of a deceived nation and unequivocally reveal the true source of all power. The question was no longer hypothetical, it demanded an answer, an irrefutable sign from the heavens themselves. This story promises to unveil the breathtaking courage required to stand for truth against overwhelming odds, and the awesome, undeniable power of the God who answers when all other gods are silent. It is a narrative of unwavering faith, divine intervention, and the profound, transformative impact of witnessing the hand of the Almighty in action. Even for a prophet whose pronouncements could halt the heavens, the immediate aftermath of such a bold declaration brought an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. The very air, though still, seemed to hum with the unspoken fury of a queen whose spiritual authority had been directly challenged. Elijah, having delivered a message that sealed the skies, found himself a marked man, a solitary figure against an enraged empire. This period, far from being one of triumphant vindication, plunged him into a profound crucible of isolation and dependence, a human experience of fear and uncertainty that tested the very core of his conviction. The initial impulse, a natural human response to existential threat, might have been to question the path, to shrink from the immense weight of the divine task. Yet, the divine imperative remained, guiding him not to retreat from his calling, but to withdraw into a period of intimate, singular reliance. His journey led him eastward, away from the familiar pathways, to the desolate quietude of the Korath ravine. Here, stripped of all worldly comforts and human companionship, Elijah confronted the stark reality of his chosen solitude. The rustling of dry leaves, the distant bleating of unseen flocks, became the soundtrack to his profound introspection. Every sunrise brought the stark reminder of the parched earth, a testament to his own words, and with it, the gnawing question of sustenance. His survival depended on an utterly improbable daily miracle. Ravens, creatures often associated with scavenging, became his faithful providers, delivering bread and meat with unwavering consistency. This daily ritual of receiving, a stark lesson in absolute surrender, meticulously chipped away at any residual self-reliance, cultivating a deeper understanding of God's meticulous care even in the most barren circumstances. As the brook at Korath eventually withered, mirroring the land's desperate thirst, a new, equally counterintuitive directive emerged. He was commanded to travel to Zarephath, a town within Phoenician territory, the very heartland of Baal worship, and seek refuge with a widow. This instruction presented a different kind of trial, challenging his presumptions about divine provision and exposing him to the shared vulnerability of another's desperate plight. Imagine the prophet, accustomed to the austere solitude of the wilderness, now confronting the raw, human suffering of a woman preparing what she believed to be her last meal for herself and her son. It was a test not just of his faith in God's guidance, but of his capacity for empathy and his willingness to step into a narrative of profound human scarcity. The subsequent miracle, the unending supply of flour and oil from a jar and a jug that miraculously never emptied, became the tangible manifestation of divine mentorship. Through this sustained provision, Elijah gained more than mere physical sustenance. He received a profound, experiential education in God's boundless generosity and unwavering faithfulness. This was not a singular, dramatic intervention, but a continuous, daily affirmation, teaching him and the widow an enduring lesson in sustained trust. It illuminated how God's power could manifest not only in grand, public displays but also in the quiet, intimate spaces of daily life, transforming desperate hope into enduring certainty. This intimate, repeated experience with divine providence fortified his spirit, preparing him for the greater challenges that lay ahead by anchoring his faith in tangible, miraculous evidence. However, the trials in Zarephath were not solely about provision. A more grievous challenge awaited, one that would plumb the depths of human grief and divine power, the sudden illness and death of the widow's son. This tragedy plunged Elijah into a profound spiritual battle, as the grieving mother's lament implicitly questioned the very blessing he had brought. Here, the prophet's role shifted from a recipient of miracles to an intercessor, grappling with the mystery of life and death. His earnest cries to the Lord, his outstretched body upon the child, represented a desperate, fervent plea for divine intervention, a raw display of his own anguish and unwavering belief in God's sovereignty over all things. Witnessing the boy's resurrection, the return of breath and warmth to cold flesh, provided Elijah with an unparalleled understanding of God's dominion over life itself, imbuing him with a spiritual authority and wisdom that transcended mere prophetic insight. Consequently, these hidden years, spent in the desolate ravine and the humble home of a foreign widow, functioned as a rigorous spiritual forge. Far from the public eye, Elijah's character was refined, his faith deepened through tangible encounters with divine provision, protection, and power over life and death. He learned patience, absolute dependence, and the profound intimacy of a God who cares for the solitary prophet and the destitute widow alike. This period of intense, personal trial equipped him with an inner strength and an unshakable conviction, transforming him from a bold messenger into a tested vessel, ready to confront the spiritual darkness that enveloped his nation with the undeniable authority of a man who had intimately known and witnessed the living God in action. A divine whisper, an undeniable imperative, finally stirred the prophet from his prolonged solitude, redirecting his gaze from the quiet solace of Zarephath back toward the spiritual battleground of his homeland. After 3 years of unprecedented drought, a period that had stripped the land bare and tested the very limits of human endurance, the moment for a definitive confrontation had arrived. This was not a decision born of Elijah's own strategic planning, but a direct command from the Most High, a signal for the ultimate divine intervention to commence. The stage was being meticulously set, not by human hands, but by the unseen orchestrator of history. Thus propelled, Elijah embarked on his journey to confront King Ahab, a monarch whose reign had become synonymous with apostasy. The meeting itself was a testament to the prophet's unyielding courage, a solitary figure standing before a king whose power was absolute, yet whose spiritual sight was profoundly clouded. Elijah's pronouncement to Ahab was not one of supplication, but of unwavering authority, a demand for the gathering of all Israel, alongside the hundreds of prophets of Baal and Asherah, upon the ancient and revered Mount Carmel. This audacious challenge, delivered with unflinching conviction, was designed to force an undeniable reckoning, to bring the national spiritual crisis to a singular, unavoidable peak. Consider the sheer spectacle that began to unfold. From every corner of the parched land, the people converged upon Mount Carmel, a natural amphitheater overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. Their faces, etched with the weariness of famine and the uncertainty of a prolonged spiritual void, reflected a nation desperate for answers. They were a populace caught between two worlds, the fading memory of Yahweh's covenant and the pervasive, yet unfulfilled, promises of Baal. The gathering was immense, a silent, expectant multitude, drawn by the gravity of the impending event. Alongside them came the formidable contingent of Baal's prophets, 450 fervent priests, accompanied by the 400 prophets of Asherah, all maintained at Jezebel's lavish table. These were the champions of the prevailing idolatry, their presence a stark visual representation of the spiritual darkness that had engulfed Israel. Elijah's voice, cutting through the palpable tension, then articulated the profound dilemma facing the nation. His words were a direct challenge to their divided loyalties. How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal is God, follow him. This was no mere rhetorical question, it was an ultimatum, a demand for clarity and commitment from a people adrift in spiritual ambiguity. The silence that followed was deafening, a collective inability to articulate a clear allegiance, exposing the depth of their spiritual confusion and the pervasive influence of syncretism. Consequently, Elijah proposed a test, a stark and simple demonstration designed to leave no room for doubt. 2 altars would be built, 2 bulls prepared, but no fire would be kindled by human hands. The God who answered by fire, consuming the sacrifice, would be unequivocally acknowledged as the true deity. This proposal was a masterstroke of divine strategy, a public arena where the claims of Baal, the supposed god of thunder and lightning, could be directly pitted against the power of Yahweh. It was a crucible of faith, meticulously crafted to expose the emptiness of idol worship and to reveal, with undeniable force, the living God. The terms were clear, the stakes immeasurable, and the implications for the future of Israel profound. This was more than a contest, it was a divinely orchestrated revelation, poised to tear back the veil of deception and illuminate the path to truth for an entire nation. The atmosphere on Carmel became charged, a silent countdown to a moment that would forever alter the spiritual landscape of Israel. The moment the terms of the divine contest were established, a palpable shift occurred across Mount Carmel. The air, previously thick with a general unease, now thrummed with a nervous anticipation as the 450 prophets of Baal stepped forward. Their initial movements were marked by a theatrical confidence, a display of coordinated chants and rhythmic dances around a newly constructed altar. With practiced zeal, they prepared their bull, laying it upon the wood, then commenced their fervent appeals. Their voices, initially a low murmur, steadily crescendoed into a unified, insistent cry, "O Baal, answer us." This was not merely a prayer, it was an elaborate performance, a desperate attempt to coax a response from a deity they believed controlled the very elements. The sun climbed higher, relentless in its glare, yet no answering flame descended. The crowd, a silent, watchful sea of faces, observed every gesture, every escalating plea, their hope mingling with a growing skepticism. As the morning hours bled into midday, the prophets' fervor intensified, their movements becoming more frantic, their cries more desperate. They leaped upon the altar, a whirling dervish of human energy, their faces contorted with exertion and mounting frustration. The lack of any discernible response from their God pushed them to increasingly extreme measures. With a chilling resolve, they began to gash themselves with swords and spears, a gruesome display of self-mutilation, believing that the shedding of their own blood might somehow compel Baal's attention. The sight was both grotesque and pitiable, a stark illustration of the depths of their misguided devotion. Their desperate shouts, now mixed with the sounds of their own suffering, echoed across the silent mountain, a testament to their profound spiritual delusion. Elijah, observing this escalating pandemonium, delivered a series of sharp, cutting taunts that pierced through their ritualistic frenzy. His voice, clear and unyielding, mocked their God's perceived inattention. "Shout louder. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is asleep and must be awakened." These sardonic remarks, far from discouraging the Baal worshippers, only spurred them to greater, more frantic efforts, their cries reaching a fever pitch until the very edge of evening. The sun began its slow descent towards the Mediterranean horizon, casting long shadows across the mountain, a stark visual metaphor for the darkening realization of their complete and utter failure. No fire, no thunder, no sign whatsoever had emerged from the heavens in response to their exhaustive, bloody spectacle. With the utter exhaustion and defeat of Baal's prophets now undeniably evident, Elijah calmly stepped forward, signaling a profound shift in the proceedings. His demeanor was a stark contrast to the preceding chaos, radiating an unshakable serenity. He called the people to draw near, and with deliberate care, he began to reconstruct the altar of the Lord, which had been broken down in the years of neglect and idolatry. He meticulously gathered 12 stones, each one a potent symbol of the unified tribes of Israel, and with these, he rebuilt the sacred structure. Surrounding the altar, he had a trench dug, large enough to contain 2 seahs of seed, a seemingly inexplicable action given the parched state of the land. Then came an instruction that must have seemed utterly audacious, even absurd, to the drought-weary onlookers. Elijah commanded that the prepared sacrifice and the wood be drenched, not merely once, but 3 times, with precious, life-giving water. Imagine the collective gasp, the silent incredulity, as barrels of water, a commodity more valuable than gold in that desolate time, were poured over the offering, saturating the wood and filling the surrounding trench to the brim. This extraordinary act removed any conceivable possibility of natural ignition, making the impending miracle unequivocally divine. It was a deliberate amplification of the challenge, ensuring that any subsequent fire could only be attributed to a power far beyond human manipulation or coincidence. As the last drops of water settled, creating a glistening, impossible scene atop the altar, Elijah approached, his posture one of profound reverence and unwavering confidence. His prayer, in stark contrast to the earlier cacophony, was remarkably concise, a direct and earnest appeal. He addressed the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, not with desperate pleas or self-inflicted wounds, but with a humble yet firm declaration of divine purpose. "Let it be known this day that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant and that I have done all these things at your word." His request was not for personal glory, but for the vindication of God's name and the turning of the people's hearts back to truth. A profound quietude descended upon the multitude, a collective breath held, as they awaited the unseen hand to respond to this singular, powerful invocation. The prolonged period of spiritual desiccation, which had gripped the land like an unyielding vice, had, in its own paradoxical way, meticulously prepared the ground for a profound reorientation. This pervasive spiritual famine, mirrored so vividly in the physical landscape, had fostered a deep-seated yearning for clarity, a quiet desperation for an undeniable sign amidst the cacophony of competing loyalties. Simultaneously, the solitary journey of the prophet, marked by an almost impossible dependence and an intimate witness to life's most fragile boundaries, had forged an inner resilience. His spirit, refined in the crucible of isolation and sustained by inexplicable grace, now stood as an unwavering conduit for a truth that transcended human understanding. This dual preparation, the collective hunger of a nation and the singular tempering of a messenger, converged towards a moment of ultimate decision, a turning point where the very essence of divine authority would be laid bare. The elaborate, yet ultimately hollow, spectacles of fervent devotion to lesser gods had demonstrably exhausted their capacity for revelation. The escalating displays of human effort, culminating in acts of profound desperation, had served only to underscore the inherent void at their core. This protracted spiritual contest, far from being merely an external drama, had meticulously revealed the emptiness of promises untethered to ultimate reality. Against this backdrop of futility, the deliberate construction of a new altar, stripped of all human pretense, and the audacious act of drenching the offering with precious, life-sustaining water, served a singular, powerful purpose. It was a conscious, intentional removal of any shadow of doubt, a calculated elevation of the stakes to ensure that the impending manifestation could only be ascribed to an unequivocal, transcendent power. The stage was set not for a contest of wills, but for a revelation of being. Reflecting on the intricate tapestry woven thus far, one cannot help but perceive the meticulous alignment of circumstances, each element contributing to an inescapable conclusion. The profound silence that followed the desperate pleas of the false prophets, a silence pregnant with the weight of unanswered prayers, had now given way to a quiet, reverent anticipation. The collective gaze of a nation, once fractured by divided allegiances, now focused intently on a single point of convergence. The long-held questions, the unspoken doubts, the weary resignation of a people adrift, all had been channeled into this singular moment. The very fabric of existence, once obscured by competing claims, now awaited a definitive illumination, a clear and undeniable answer to the most fundamental question of their faith. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the imminence of a truth about to break forth, promising not just a spectacle, but a profound reordering of understanding. As we pivot towards the culmination of this extraordinary narrative, it becomes strikingly clear that the efficacy of human endeavor, however passionate or self-sacrificing, had reached its absolute limit. All avenues of earthly manipulation, all forms of ritualistic entreaty, had been thoroughly explored and found wanting. What remained was a space of pure expectation, an open invitation for a power beyond human reach to assert its dominion. The profound implications of this shift, from the cacophony of human striving to the stillness of divine potential, resonate deeply, underscoring a foundational truth about the nature of genuine spiritual encounter. It is in this void of human capability that the truly transcendent is poised to manifest, not through the strength of mortals, but through an unassailable, inherent authority. The breath of anticipation that now sweeps across the mountain is not merely for a visual sign, but for a complete and utter transformation of perspective, a turning of the heart towards an undeniable reality. Drawing these various threads into a single, resonant chord, we stand at the threshold of a declaration that transcends the immediate moment. The journey, marked by both stark desolation and astonishing provision, by human failing and unwavering conviction, has meticulously cleared the way for an unambiguous statement of sovereignty. The lingering uncertainty, the fragmented loyalties, the very foundations of a nation's spiritual identity, all hang in the balance. The impending answer is not merely a response to a prayer, it is the definitive articulation of ultimate truth, a revelation designed to shatter illusions and illuminate the singular path forward. The cumulative weight of every preceding event, every trial, every act of faith and futility, culminates here, poised to deliver an indelible imprint upon the hearts and minds of all who bear witness. We are about to observe not just an event, but the profound, transformative power of God's undeniable presence. The profound silence that had gripped Mount Carmel, a breath-held anticipation, was utterly shattered by a swift, searing descent. Not a flicker of human flame, not a whisper of human artifice, but an undeniable, consuming fire from the heavens themselves. It erupted with an unearthly intensity, not merely touching the sacrifice, but devouring it whole. The bull, the wood, the very stones of the altar, all were instantaneously reduced to ash. Even the precious water, poured so audaciously into the surrounding trench, was licked away by the divine inferno, leaving the ground parched and smoking, a potent symbol of the drought's end and a new spiritual beginning. This was no mere spectacle, it was a categorical declaration, a visceral, irrefutable answer from the God who hears, the God who acts, the God who reigns supreme. The awe that swept through the assembled multitude was not born of fear alone, but of a profound, transformative recognition. The years of doubt, the whispers of Baal's supposed power, the pervasive spiritual confusion, all dissolved in that single, glorious moment of divine manifestation. In that instant, the spiritual ambiguity that had plagued Israel for generations was utterly annihilated. The wavering between two opinions, the agonizing indecision, evaporated like morning mist under the rising sun. The people, witnessing with their own eyes the undeniable power of Yahweh, fell prostrate, their collective voice rising in a thunderous, unified declaration, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." This was not a coerced confession, but an outpouring of conviction, a turning of hearts prompted by an encounter with raw, unvarnished truth. The demonstration on Carmel was far more than a contest, it was a profound act of divine revelation, meticulously orchestrated to reclaim a nation's allegiance, to shatter the illusions of idolatry, and to unequivocally establish the singular, omnipotent reality of the true God. It marked an epochal shift, a clarion call back to the ancient covenant, reminding Israel of its true heritage and the source of its very life. The enduring resonance of this dramatic encounter stretches far beyond the arid hills of ancient Israel. It serves as a timeless testament to the futility of constructing our own gods, of investing our hopes in transient powers or self-serving ideologies. The clamor of competing voices, each promising fulfillment and control, often seeks to drown out the quiet, consistent truth of divine sovereignty. Yet, the story of Carmel stands as an eternal beacon, illuminating the emptiness of human striving when detached from ultimate reality. It speaks to the universal human search for meaning, urging us to discern between the seductive, yet ultimately impotent, narratives of the world and the steadfast, life-giving truth of the Creator. It's a powerful reminder that while many may claim dominion, only one truly answers with the undeniable authority of fire from heaven, demonstrating true power over all of existence. This narrative, therefore, transcends a historical recounting, it becomes a profound invitation to introspection. In our own lives, where do we find ourselves wavering between opinions, distracted by the allure of temporary gods, or settling for comfortable half-truths? The legacy of Elijah on Carmel challenges us to confront our own allegiances, to examine the foundations of our faith, and to seek an unvarnished encounter with the divine. It calls for the courage to stand for truth, even when it means standing alone, and the humility to acknowledge a power infinitely greater than our own. The true practice begins now, in the quiet spaces of our hearts, where we are called to echo the ancient cry, "The Lord, He is God." It is a call not just to intellectual assent, but to a profound, transformative commitment, allowing the fire of divine truth to consume all that is false, leaving behind only the pure, unyielding devotion to the one who truly holds dominion over all. This story inspires us to live with an unwavering certainty, knowing that the God who answered by fire then, remains the same God who answers with truth and grace today, guiding us through our own spiritual deserts towards abundant life.